Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Trumpetscall. I'm AmarYaH. I pray that you are holding on to faith, amunah, and holding on to hope during these times. Thank you for joining me once again on the channel and for another session of our Sista Chats. In today's session of our Sista Chats, we're going to be talking about holiness, walking in holiness, and what that looks like and what it doesn't look like. As we prepare for the coming of our King and the return to our land, we know that the Most High is placing his finger on certain things in our lives, and he's causing us to make a change so that we can make sure that our garments are wrinkle-free and nice and white. So today we're going to be engaging in a new little mini series within our Sista Chats called Walking in Holiness, or Walking Qadash. Walking Qadash. So in today's session of our Walking Qadash within our Sista Chats, we're going to be talking about a topic that many of us ladies, we don't particularly like to talk about. And the men, those of you who have joined us, you're involved in this conversation too, because these things affect you, because you're married to the daughters of Zion. You have mothers, you have aunties, you have sisters. And so these things affect you in that as a result of listening to this lesson, you can add wise counsel to the lives of those daughters of Zion who are part of your life. Okay? So today we're going to be talking about weaves, fingernail polish, and makeup. Yes. These are the things that we kind of just want to sweep under the rug a little bit because we got to look good, right? Well, what defines looking good in the Most High's sight? What defines that? Is it Babylon who defines that for us? Or does the Most High tell us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made? And when we were born, we didn't have any makeup in our mother's womb with us, and we were born just beautiful. We didn't have any Clairol, no hair dye, no hair weaves, no fingernail press-ons, none of those things. And yet we were beautiful to our parents. So it's time for us to return to that fresh-faced, fresh-nailed look that we had when we were younger, before we were told that we needed makeup and press-on nails and hair extensions and lip liner and eyeliner and tattoos and piercings and all these things in order to be beautiful. We were told these things. We've been engaging in pagan revelry, and we were lied to. And so it's time to get back to the truth of our identity and get away from yellow and green lips, get away from eyeshadow that makes us look like clowns. It's time to get away from eyelash extensions that make us look like camels. These things are not pretty. They're not beautiful. They're not commonsensical. They make no sense to have that much fake eyelash hair on your eyes. Okay? And it's time to get back to what the Father intended for us to be. Our natural hair. The hair that he gave us that defies gravity. It's so beautiful and so functional. For the times and the seasons and the hot weather, the wind just blows through our hair and cools our scalp. It stands on end. Those of the other cultures look at our hair and they are astounded. They walk up to us and they want to touch it because it defies gravity, they say. It's beautiful to them, but to us, maybe not so much. So we've got to get back to what it means to be beautiful in Abba's sight. We've got to get away from the hair extensions. We've got to get away from the relaxers, the poison that we're putting into our hair that's now been linked to fibroid tumors. Yes, the chemicals in those relaxers is now linked to fibroids. Everything that Babylon gives us, it gives us with one hand and then it takes with the other. So if it's going to give you beauty, it's going to take your health in the process. And also, once again, who gets to define what beauty is? You'll see on the screen a picture of a beautiful melanated woman. Natural hair, natural nails. Aren't they beautiful? Isn't her skin glowing and beautiful just the way it is? Looks like she's got a little bit of lip gloss on, maybe a little tint. She doesn't even need that. But look at her. She's beautiful, natural. She doesn't need all of these extensions on her fingernails. And we spend how much money as Hebrews trying to be beautiful, trying to fit into the mold that Babylon has created for us. And we contort ourselves to fit. And we go to hair salons and nail salons and tattoo parlors and piercing shops and all of these things. And we spend money that sometimes we don't have or can't afford because we're trying to fit into a system that the Most High is telling us to come out of. We need to stop wasting our money and our time going to the nail salon and coming out with nails that look like claws. No, somebody tell me that those don't look like claws. They do. It's on purpose, brothers and sisters. Don't you think for a second that there's a trend that the people behind the scenes, the powers that be, or like I like to call them, the powers that were, you just don't know it yet. Think not for a second that they're not aware of the trends and they're not driving them. They're driving us toward bestiality. They're driving us toward seeing ourselves as animals. Look at those nails. They look like claws. You think that's an accident that they look like claws and that that's the trend? To have sharp, pointy nails that look like you're an animal? It's not an accident. And this sister, she's beautiful, but those nails aren't. That's kind of Edward Scissorhand, like, it's not beautiful. She is, but the nails aren't. They're not beautiful. They're not practical. They make no sense. The Most High did not intend for us to look like leopards or like lions. So he did not give us claws or fangs. And so we need to go back to simplicity. Simple hair, simple face, simple nails, and see it as beautiful, what Abba gave us, not what the world tries to convince us that we need. For a cost, mind you, for a cost. And the cost is greater than sometimes our pocketbooks. So we're going to be looking into these things today. We're going to be looking at the history. Why did we start wearing makeup in the first place? Where did that come from? Did our ancestors wear makeup? Did they? But we are going to try to arrive at why we have arrived, us, here in the foreign lands to which we have been scattered, have adopted the customs of our captors to wear paint on our faces. Where did that come from? Why are we doing it? So we're going to talk about these things. We're going to look at the history of makeup. We're going to look at the history of nail polish. And we're going to look at the history of hair weaves. Okay? And by the end of this lesson, it is my prayer that you will come to an understanding of your beauty in your natural state. The Most High made you. He didn't tell you just add makeup, just add nail polish, just add a tattoo, just add a piercing. He did not say those things. So he made you perfect, just the way you were, just the way you look. Okay? Now comb your hair, wash your face, put on some lip balm if you need it, but don't be taken in by Babylon to believe that you need their products in order to be beautiful. Okay? So let's get started for today. We're going to be reading this article in Britannica, and it's entitled, Why Did We Start Wearing Makeup? And it's written by Meg Matthias. Here's a question for makeup users and non-users alike. Would you believe that philosophers once determined makeup trends? What about poets? To understand the origin of makeup, we must travel back in time about 6,000 years. We get our first glimpse of cosmetics in ancient Egypt, where most of these pagan trends began, where makeup served as a marker of wealth believed to appeal to the gods. The elaborate eyeliner characteristic of Egyptian art appeared on men and women as early as 4000 BCE. Kohl, rouge, white powders to lighten skin tone, and malachite eyeshadow, the green color of which represented the gods, Horus and Ra, were all in popular use. So on the screen, you have some images of women, Egyptian-like women, with the darker skin tones, and you'll see varying shades of makeup or powders on their faces, adding tint to their lips, shading to their eyes, and so on and so forth. And so this is kind of what you would see, something similar to this back in ancient Egypt, as wearing these types of makeup and powders on your face was a sign of wealth and status, and also in paying homage to the gods of their nation of Egypt. Continuing. Makeup is mentioned in the Bible too, in both the Jewish scriptures and the Christian Old Testament and New Testament. The book of Jeremiah, which details the titular prophet's ministry from about 627 BCE to 586 BCE, argues against cosmetics use, against, brothers and sisters, thereby discouraging vanity. And it reads, "And you, O desolate one, what do you mean that you dress in crimson, that you deck yourself with ornaments of gold, that you enlarge your eyes with paint? In vain you beautify yourself. Your lovers despise you. They seek your life." And in 2 Kings, the evil queen Jezebel exemplifies the connection between cosmetics and wickedness, being described as having painted her eyes and adorned her head. Before her death, at the behest of the warrior Jehu, though Jezebel's makeup use was not the impetus for her murder. So too was there a disdain for cosmetics among ancient Romans, though not for religious reasons. Hygiene products such as bath soaps, deodorants, and moisturizers were used by men and women were more encouraged to enhance their natural appearance by removing body hair. But makeup products such as rouge were associated with sex workers, and hence were considered a sign of shamelessness. Did you hear that, brothers and sisters? In ancient Egypt, rouge, blush, the use of it was associated with sex workers, and that's a nice way of saying prostitute. Continuing. Deriding makeup users is a common theme in Roman poems and comic plays, though theatrical performers constituted one of the few classes of people expected to use cosmetics. And admonitions against makeup appear in the personal writings of Roman doctors and philosophers. The elegiac poet Sextus Propertius, for example, wrote that looks as nature bestowed them are always most becoming. What a beautiful thing to say. He's essentially saying the way that the Most High, your Creator, intended for you to look is always going to be the most becoming and the most beautiful. And the philosopher Seneca the Younger, in a letter to his mother, praised the fact that she never defiled her face with paints or cosmetics. Continuing. This Roman view of cosmetics was at least partially rooted in Stoicism, a philosophy that foregrounded moral goodness and human reason. Stoics regarded beauty as intrinsically related to goodness. While an attractive physical form might be desirable, true beauty was instead associated with moral acts. Decorating the body with cosmetics implied a vanity or a selfishness that to Stoics was undesirable. Though Stoicism was not confined to ancient Rome, it was also prevalent among ancient Greek thinkers, some of whom shared the same ideas about makeup. In Rome, it affected the mainstream opinion of cosmetics. Not every Roman was resistant to makeup. Some people continued to rouge their cheeks, whiten their faces, and line their eyes, but the Stoic ideal leaned toward what we might call today no makeup, using skincare products and other toiletries to enhance one's natural appearance, not to decorate it. So far we see in this article in Britannica, the consensus seems to be that, at least with regard to ancient Rome and ancient Greece, the tendency was to not make up your faces, to not paint your face, because to be morally good was beautiful, and not to paint your face with cosmetics. That cheapened you and made you look like a sex worker, according to this article so far. So we're going to continue on. So continued a pattern of embracing and rejecting makeup in the Western world. Cosmetics were so popular in the Byzantine Empire that its citizens gained an international reputation for vanity. So here we see the use of cosmetics is related to vanity. It's clear. It's clear. It's plain. Cosmetics use related to vanity. So let's define vanity before we continue. Vanity is excessive pride in one's appearance or accomplishments. It's another word for conceit. Something about which one is vain or conceited. To be conceited is to be self-centered, is to be focused on yourself. Okay, so the sense of vanity that we're looking for with regard to the practice of wearing cosmetics is to excessively pride oneself in their appearance and in their accomplishments or their sense of beauty. Continuing. The Renaissance era embraced all forms of physical beauty, which people sought to attain, especially through hair dye and skin lighteners, which, containing powdered lead and other harmful products, proved toxic. Another widespread movement against cosmetics appeared in the mid-19th century when Britain's Queen Victoria declared makeup to be vulgar, and cosmetics once again went out of fashion. Though many women didn't give up makeup entirely, many now applied it in secret. Who was to say their cheeks weren't naturally rosy? Continuing. It wasn't until about the 1920s that highly visible cosmetics such as red lips and dark eyeliner re-entered the mainstream, at least in the Anglo-American world. Not everyone had listened to Queen Victoria and eschewed makeup in the first place. As the beauty industry gained a financial foothold, often in the form of individual women selling to other women, dissenters found that they could no longer compete. Cosmetics, now popularized and advertised, again became a mark of wealth and status, and emphasizing physical features, even for sex appeal, was no longer considered quite so selfish or wicked as it had been in the past. Eventually, advertisers persuaded women to take the opposite view. Cosmetics were a necessity. But that's another story entirely. Okay, and that is the end of that article. If you'd like to read more on this topic, head over to Britannica.com. So now we go from believing that cosmetics are a sign of vanity to advertisers and marketers convincing women that cosmetics were a necessity, that you couldn't be beautiful at all without makeup. And some women will not leave the house today without makeup on their faces. So we're going to delve a little bit deeper into the history of cosmetics as we continue on. So we're going to be reading this article entitled, A History of Cosmetics. Civilizations have used cosmetics, though not always recognizable compared to today's advanced products, for centuries, in religious rituals, to enhance beauty, and to promote good health. Cosmetics usage throughout history can be indicative of a civilization's practical concerns, such as protection from the sun, indication of class, or conventions of beauty. The timeline represents a brief history of cosmetics beginning with the ancient Egyptians in 10,000 BCE through modern developments in the United States. Okay, so we're going to be looking into a few of the charts that they provide here, giving us a timeline of the history of cosmetics. So we begin around 10,000 BCE in ancient Egypt. Cosmetics are an integral part of Egyptian hygiene and health. Men and women in Egypt used scented oils and ointments to clean and soften their skin and mask body odor. Oils and creams are used for protection against the hot Egyptian sun and dry winds. Makes a lot of sense. Myrrh, thyme, marjoram, chamomile, lavender, lily, peppermint, rosemary, cedar, rose, aloe, olive oil, sesame oil, and almond oil provide the basic ingredients of most perfumes Egyptians used in religious rituals. And then, in around 4000 BCE, we see Egyptian women apply galena masdemet, made of copper and lead ore, and malachite, bright green paste of copper minerals, to their faces for color and definition. They use coal, a combination of burnt almonds, oxidized copper, different colored copper ores, lead, ash, and ochre to adorn the eyes in an almond shape. Women carry cosmetics to parties and makeup boxes and keep them under their chairs. Okay, so we're talking about applying lead, among other ores, to your face, which can be absorbed through your skin. And lead is toxic. But I guess they didn't know that at the time. We'll continue on looking at the timeline. So now we arrive at 3000 BCE. The Chinese stain their fingernails with gum arabic, gelatin, beeswax, and egg. The colors are used as a representation of social class. Zhou dynasty royals wear gold and silver, with subsequent royals wearing black and red. Lower classes are forbidden to wear bright colors on their nails. Grecian women paint their faces with white lead and apply crushed mulberries as rouge. The application of fake eyebrows, often made of oxen hair, is also fashionable. I can't even imagine placing oxen hairs on your eyebrows. I just can't. I can't even pull that up in my mind. But this is what they did at the time, and they placed lead, a toxic substance, on their faces. Continuing. So we're going to skip ahead in time to around 1500 BCE. Chinese and Japanese citizens commonly use rice powder to make their faces white. Eyebrows are shaved off. Teeth are painted gold or black. And henna dyes are applied to stain hair and faces. So, in the use of makeup, the definitions of what beauty is, they vary based on culture. I can't imagine here us choosing to paint all of our teeth black and apply henna to your face. But who knows? If Sephora started selling it, it may become a hit. You never know. So now we're going to read about what was happening at around 1000 BCE. Grecians whitened their complexion with chalk or lead face powder and fashioned crude lipstick out of ochre clays laced with red iron. Cosmetics in the early Common Era. In Rome, people put barley flour and butter on their pimples and sheep fat and blood on their fingernails for polish. Father, have mercy. So you see, brothers and sisters, this is where these things originate, and they have evolved over time. But this is what people did as a ritualized form of trying to make themselves beautiful. And in some cases, they're trying to honor their pagan deities. Okay? So in Rome, they're using barley flour, butter on their pimples, and sheep fat and blood on their fingernails to make them red. In addition, mud baths come into vogue, and some Roman men dye their hair blonde. 300 to 400 CE are the Common Era. Henna is used in India both as a hair dye and in mehndi, an art form in which complex designs are painted on the hands and feet using a paste made from the henna plant, especially before a Hindu wedding. Henna is also used in some North African cultures. So I have included a couple of pictures here for you so you can see what the art form of Mendi looks like. It's essentially, as it states, using henna to paint the hands and to paint the feet in intricate patterns. Continuing. Cosmetics in the Middle Ages. So we're looking now at around 1200 CE. Perfumes are first imported to Europe from the Middle East as a result of the Crusades. In 1300 CE, in Elizabethan England, dyed red hair comes into fashion. Society women wear egg whites over their faces to create the appearance of a paler complexion. Some people believe, however, that cosmetics blocked proper circulation and therefore posed a health threat. You think? You think that putting egg over your face to block your pores would be a good thing? No, it's not. And so those people who thought it might be or pose a health threat, they were correct in that. And so what we're seeing in this is the attempt in more and more desperate ways to do something to make yourself stand out or to make yourself look beautiful. So let's continue on. In 15 to 1600s, we see European women often attempting to lighten their skin using a variety of products, including white lead paint. Wow. Queen Elizabeth I of England is one well-known user of white lead, with which she creates a look known as the Mask of Youth. Blonde hair rises in popularity as it is considered angelic. Mixtures of black sulfur, alum, and honey are painted onto the hair and lightened with sun exposure. Interesting. Continuing. The 19th and early 20th century global cosmetic developments. In the 1800s, we see zinc oxide become widely used as a facial powder, replacing the previously used deadly mixtures of lead and copper. One such mixture, ceruse, which is made from white lead, is later discovered to be toxic and blamed for health problems including facial tremors, muscle paralysis, and even death. Queen Victoria publicly declares makeup improper. It is viewed as vulgar and acceptable only for use by actors. And this is in the early 19th century that this is occurring, and yet it continues to escalate in popularity. Okay? People are dying to be beautiful when the Father granted us that as a birthright. Continuing. From its earliest days, the United States has been at the forefront of cosmetics innovation, entrepreneurship, and regulation. The timeline below represents a brief history of the important developments and American usage trends, as well as a regulatory history of cosmetics in the U.S. David McConnell founds the California Perfume Company, then located in New York. Over time, the company continues to grow and experiences great success, selling 5 million units in North America during World War I alone. In 1928, CPC sells its first products, toothbrush, powdered cleanser, and a vanity set under the name by which it is commonly known today, Avon. The Avon line of cosmetics was introduced the next year in 1929. In 1910, we see American women begin to fashion their own form of mascara by applying beads of wax to their eyelashes. In 1914, we see the onset of World War I, which leads to increased employment among American women. This gain of disposable income with more discretion over its use leads to a boom in domestic cosmetic sales. In 1915, chemist T.L. Williams creates Maybelline mascara for his sister, Mabel, the product's inspiration. The flapper looks comes into fashion for the first time, and with it, increased cosmetics use. Dark eyes, red lips, red nail polish, and the suntan, which is first noted as a fashion statement by Coco Chanel. Cosmetics and fragrances are manufactured and mass-marketed in America for the first time. Max Factor, a Polish-American cosmetician and former cosmetics expert for the Russian royal family, invents the word makeup and introduces society makeup to the general public, enabling women to emulate the looks of their favorite movie stars. In the 1920s and 30s, the first liquid nail polish, several forms of modern base, powdered blushes, and the modern compact are introduced. Now, this article goes on to talk about the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, going all the way to 2018 or 2019. But here is where we're going to end with this particular article. If you'd like to read more about the history of makeup, it's a really interesting read. I'm going to leave the link below. So we're going to continue on with our discussion about makeup. But suffice it to say, in most cases, makeup was frowned upon. It was seen as a sign of vanity. It was seen as a sign of promoting oneself. And it was not something that was done by the masses until it was promoted as such. It was promoted by marketers and those who were good at selling their products to make women believe that you need makeup in order to be beautiful. But at first, it was not so. So we're going to continue our discussion now. We're going to move on to the discussion of nail polish. Where did it come from? Where did it originate? Many of us have had our nails done probably multiple times during the month, depending on our budgets. And it's something that has become a part of the culture. But should it be? Where did it originate? Let's talk about it. So we're going to be learning a little bit more about the history of nail polish from this article entitled The Colorful History of Nail Polish by Kristen Hall Geisler. And it begins, when you're out getting your weekly mani-pedi, have you ever stopped to wonder where in the world did nail polish come from? Well, the history is long and colorful and probably not exactly what you'd imagine. The very first people to apply color to their nails were likely in India during the Bronze Age, and they probably used henna to do it. The use of henna as a dye for body art was very common, so extending the designs and color onto the nails was a natural next step. The early varnishes. From India, the trend spread to China, where the Chinese took the nail game up a level sometime around 3000 BCE. They created a sort of nail varnish using a mixture of egg whites, beeswax, gelatin, gum arabic, which is a sap from the acacia tree, and alum. Then colored that with flower petals or gold or silver dust. They further personalized the looks with artificial nails made of silver and gold covered with jewels or cloisonne as well. These elaborately designed and colored nails were exclusively reserved for royal classes only. Around the same time, the Babylonians were getting into the nail game, but it was the warriors who were wearing color. The men pigmented their nails with coal, a finely powdered sulfide, before going into battle. Again, even among these soldiers, class mattered. Higher class warriors had their nails colored with black coal, while lower class fighters used green coal. Eventually, the nail trend spread west across Asia and into Africa. Henna has been found painted on mummies, including their nails, but flashy red shades were also used. Nail color signified class in Egypt too. The redder one's nails in ancient Egypt, the more power the person had. Queen Nefertiti, stepmother of King Tutankhamun, wore dark red nails, a color rumored to have blood in it. Cleopatra is said to have painted her nails from the juice of the henna plant, which created a deep rusty color. Women of lower rank were allowed to wear pastel colors only. So now we're going to read an article about the health benefit, if any, of wearing nail polish. So we're going to be reading this article entitled, Is Nail Polish Bad for Your Nails? So let's read this article. Maybe you love the look of sleek, polished nails, but sometimes you wonder, Are there harmful effects of nail polish? Are nails healthier without polish? I'm going to pause here for just a second. Now, I have in the past had my nails done. There was a period of time years ago that I had my nails done every other week or so. There was a time that I engaged in the fake nails and had the gel nails and all that, and did all that because my friend said, "Oh, you've got to do it, you've got to do it." And so I indulged and started getting my nails done. But after a while, you realize that you have to keep going to get them filled in because your actual nails would grow under the covering that had been put on them. And so you'd have to go frequently to get a fill in. And I realized after a while that my own nails were getting thinner and more unhealthy under all that thick gel on top of my nails that had hardened into what seemed like cement. So I broke away. I went in one day and I said, "Take it off. Just take it off. I want my own nails. I don't want this anymore." And so it took some time for my nails to get healthy again, enough to feel comfortable wearing it. But I would still go in and get my nails done and just have my own natural nails and let them file them for me and push back my cuticles and then pick out a cute little polish. And I thought I was doing something because, like, look, I've got my real nails. At least I'm not wearing gel nails anymore. But after coming into the awakening and wanting to grow closer to the Most High, this was not something that He would allow me to do. So I no longer go and get my nails did up. I don't do that. And so this article that we're reading right now is trying to answer the question, is getting your nails done, is it bad for your health? I do remember being in the nail salon and the smell of the acetone would make me feel as if I was going to choke. It was like I was gasping for air. And sometimes I would get up and say, "I've got to go outside. I needed some fresh air." Sitting in that salon for hours, sometimes smelling that, inhaling that, made me feel as if I was not doing myself any favors. So let's continue with this article and see what it has to say about nail polish and the process of getting your nails did up. There are several different kinds of nail polish. You can wear nail polish over your natural or artificial nails. Here are the most popular types. Traditional nail polish. Painted on in several coats and air dried. You can quickly remove it with an acetone-based nail polish remover. This is the type of nail polish most people apply at home. Gel polish. A salon technician paints gel polish on, then cures it under a lamp so it hardens almost instantly. Powdered dip polish. A technician applies a glue-like bonding polish, then dips the nail in acrylic powder. They apply a liquid last to make a hard shell. Okay, so these are the types of nail polish. So let's continue on. Nail polish in moderation isn't necessarily bad for your nails. Nails don't need to breathe per se because they get their nutrients from your blood. But it's still not great to wear nail polish all the time. Now here's where I'm going to interrupt for just a second, and I'm going to say, if nails get nutrients from your blood and you put polish on your nails, which has pores, and what's in the nail polish can seep into your pores and enter into your blood, isn't that affecting you? Or if you're sitting and you're breathing in acetone, which goes into your lungs and can eventually end up in your bloodstream, isn't that bad for you? Now, I'm not a doctor, and I don't pretend to be one, but it seems to me like putting things on your body that are toxic eventually will find its way into your body. But let's continue. Continual use of nail polish can discolor your nails. The lamps used to cure gel nail polish emit UV rays, and UV rays can increase your risk of skin cancer and premature aging. It is recommended to apply sunscreen to your hands and fingers before your gel manicure. I'm sure most people don't do that. Removing nail polish with harsh chemicals can make your nails dry and brittle. If nails crack, they can allow bacteria to enter your body, possibly causing infection. Chemicals from nail polish may eventually seep into your nails and get absorbed into the body. It's unclear whether it's enough to affect your health. Over time, it will be. The bottom line is that, other than looking good, there's no great benefit of nail polish. It doesn't make your nails stronger. In fact, nail treatments usually make them more brittle in the long run. So after reading all about nail polish and why people put colors on their nails and the social status that it provided, we're now going to mosey on over to the hair and why we do our hair the way we do. So we're going to talk about hair weave. Where did it come from and why do we wear it? So we're going to be reading this article on the website Afro Lovely called Who Invented the Hair Weave? The invention of the hair weave. The weave has existed since ancient times. Let's look at its history from different cultures. Once again, the ancient Egyptians. Worn by both men and women, the invention of hair weaves can be traced all the way back to ancient Egypt. If you look at pictures of hieroglyphics and statues from that period, you'll see the very popular images of the hair pieces they wore. These can be described as early wigs and weaves. People who were of a higher class could afford real human hair tend to wear wigs the most. Due to the very hot climate, they would shave their head completely, but wear a wig in public. However, those who could not afford an entire wig would use hair extensions, which is similar to the present-day hair weave. These extensions would rarely be made of human hair because of how expensive it was and difficult to acquire. So, many people would create them out of animal hair or plant fibers instead. Sometimes wealthy Egyptians would add these extensions to their wigs, giving them a more luxurious and voluminous look. The making of a wig was very similar to attaching a weave to the head. Both techniques require attaching hair wefts to a base, whether it be a cap, a net, or natural hair. Hair was not the only adornment that would be attached. Those who could afford it would also add items like gold, silver, ribbons, or beads. Way back then, people were doing things like that. Continuing, after around 1150 BC, extensions with color became popular. Some of the common colors for extensions in Egypt were indigo, bright blue, green, and yellow. These hair pieces could also be attached in different ways. For example, Cleopatra was said to have worn weaves made out of human hair and dyed sheep wool that were attached by knotting it to her natural hair. Another way of attaching weaves to the head would be braiding. Okay, so there's more to this article, but we're going to pause here and move on to the next article as we build our case and our history of why we do what we do regarding our hair. So now we're going to take a look at this article by the National Library of Medicine, and it is entitled Carcinogenic Materials in Synthetic Braids and Unrecognized Risk of Hair Products for Black Women. Interesting. And the article reads, Black women across the United States are commonly exposed to carcinogens due to inadequate regulation of substances involved in hair braiding, an important cultural beauty practice. While public awareness of harmful ingredients in black hair products has slowly been increasing, synthetic extensions as a source of toxins has not been an area of focus. Hair extensions used for braiding consist of either human hair or synthetic fibers. Synthetic extensions tend to be used more frequently due to affordability. Extensions are typically worn for at least 4 to 6 weeks, with continuous exposure to carcinogenic ingredients for those who subsequently reinstall their braids throughout the year. This exposure is taking place in a population already plagued with high rates of endocrine disorders, breast cancer mortality, and uterine disease. Therefore, further research is required to investigate a causal relationship, especially since other black hair care products have already been associated with negative health outcomes. In the interim, public health practitioners should educate individuals seeking synthetic braids, braiding professionals, and healthcare providers about potential exposure to carcinogenic compounds, as well as advocate for regulation of synthetic extension ingredients. By 2028, the global hair wig and extension market is expected to surpass $19.12 billion US dollars. Black women in the United States, along with women in continental Africa, are the largest consumer group of this industry. In 2022, 34% of adult American Black female internet users stated they wore braids with synthetic extensions within the last 3 years. Synthetic braids were also the second most popular hairstyle among American Black women aged 18 to 34. Amongst the United States, 16.1 million Black adult women, 5.5 million, or 34%, are potentially exposed. However, this is likely an underestimation, as many preteens and teenagers in the Black community frequently wear synthetic braids as well. Given the vast demand and consumption of synthetic braids, intervention is critical. The current lack of governmental regulation has resulted in the exposure of Black women to toxins in these readily accessible and popular synthetic extensions. For example, the affordable mod-acrylic fiber Canakalon is utilized by many well-known synthetic braiding extension brands and is commonly recommended by professional braiders due to its resemblance to Afro-textured hair and resistance to unraveling. Mod-acrylic fiber is composed of acrylonitrile and vinyl chloride, both of which are toxic to humans. The EPA classifies this product as a probable human carcinogen. The National Cancer Institute directly links vinyl chloride with leukemia, lymphoma, and rare forms of liver, brain, and lung cancers. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration maximum permissible exposure limits to acrylonitrile and vinyl chloride over an 8-hour weighted average is 2 parts per million and 1 part per million, respectively. To braid a full head of hair, stylists typically use 8 26-inch extension packs. This equates to continuous exposures to 800 grams of mod-acrylic fibers for up to 6 weeks. Wow. Wow. They don't tell you this when you get your hair done. They don't mention this. They really don't. And these are things we need to know so that we can make good health decisions for ourselves and for our children. Continuing. Synthetic extensions also contain and emit other concerning substances, including volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, upon heat exposure. Most braiders seal the ends of synthetic braids with hot water treatments or a curling iron or a lighter, as in the case when I used to get them years and years ago, to prevent unraveling. Long-term exposure to VOCs may exacerbate asthma in Black communities. Another concern is that synthetic extensions contain flame retardant fibers, relatively cheap chemicals used to meet fire safety law performance standards, though flame retardants themselves are not required by fire safety laws. In January 2022, New York State joined 4 other states, Delaware, Georgia, Iowa, and West Virginia, in banning flame retardants due to their adverse health effects, including cancer and reproductive organ toxicity. There is currently no ban on flame retardants at the federal level, leaving synthetic hair users at risk. Both stricter enforcement of current flame retardant bans and enactment of a federal level flame retardant ban would be regulatory steps toward protecting consumers. And this article can be found at the website listed below on the screen. So not only are we looking at the origin of the hair products that we use in terms of their health, but also why we use them on our hair. And why is it that we, as Hebrews, or being offered products that are toxic to our health that affect our fertility? Could this be yet one more ploy to drown the children in the Nile River, so to speak, to get rid of the ability of Hebrew women to produce children, to produce offspring? It's possible. So we should not play into the attempts to destroy us by purchasing their products and putting it in our hair. It's time for a change, family. It's time for a change. So we're going to continue on with another article from BBC News, and it is entitled, "Untangling Where Your Hair Extensions Really Come From." And we want to know, don't we? We want to know. We want to know where they come from. This article is by Kirsty Brewer. From wigs to weaves and hair extensions, the market for human hair is enormous. But few know where these lustrous locks come from and the journey they take across the globe. Go online and search of a wig or hair extensions and you'll be presented with a dizzying spectrum of choices. Luxury virgin hair from Brazil or Peru, pure Mongolian hair, finest Remy hair from India, sleek European weaves, but very rarely will you see hair from China advertised, even though that's where most of it's from. China is the biggest exporter and importer of human hair and harvests huge amounts of it from its own population, as Emma Tarlow discovered on a 3-year quest to untangle what happens to hair once it's no longer attached to our heads. People who work in the industry are conscious of the fact made in China is viewed as a negative label and marketed in glamorous ways instead, says Professor of Anthropology and author of Entanglement, The Secret Lives of Hair. Consult the many online hair glossaries, blogs, and tutorials, and you will be told that Chinese hair is the coarsest, that Filipino hair is similar but much shinier, that Brazilian hair is full-bodied with beautiful bounce, that Indian hair is versatile with a natural luster. Definitions are as varied as they are vague. The more you try to make sense of it, the more elusive it becomes, says Tarlow. European hair is the most valuable, partly because of its fine textures, the variety of its colors, and because it is in shorter supply. Most of this hair comes from countries in Eastern Europe such as Russia, Romania, or Ukraine. At the top end of the market is virgin hair, hair that has never been chemically treated, and Remy hair, which has never been cut or shaved directly from a donor. And then at the opposite end of the scale is standard hair, often used as a more marketable term for comb waste. Yes, beloveds, comb waste. Yes, Chinese or otherwise, many sleek and shiny hair extensions start life as hair balls collected from combs and plug holes. Do you know what a plug hole is? It's a drain. It's a drain. Some of the hair that's being sold in stores originated from people's combs, brushes, or their shower drain. Let's continue. Here's a picture. Here's a picture of piles of unsorted hair in Myanmar. So some of this hair has come from people's hair being cut and donated or sold. Some of it's come from people's combs, brushes. Some of it's come from people's drains, their bathtubs, their showers. Okay? This is what it looks like before they add all kinds of dyes and chemicals to it and put it in nice packages and put it on the store shelf for you to purchase. This is what it looks like. Take a good look. This next picture is of women in Myanmar painstakingly sorting hair into bunches of similar lengths. So they take the hair, they sort it, and they grab hair strands of similar lengths and package them together. Okay? As you can see, that's being done in the background. Stacks of hair ready to be packaged. Continuing. Chinese factories will often call the comb waste hair standard hair because a lot of the hair comes through that route, says Taro. Now, I have to say this again. I have to repeat it because I want to make sure you understand what is being said here. Chinese factories will call comb waste hair, or hair that people take out of their combs or their brushes or their shower drain, they call it standard hair because a lot of the hair comes through that route. So a lot of the hair that's being sold came from somebody's head by way of their comb or their shower drain. In terms of marketing, it's up to the integrity of traders all the way along the line to specify what hair is what. Quite a lot of mislabeling goes on, and often the people buying it don't ask questions anyway. This applies to the consumers in the salon too, according to Tarlo. People don't want to be haunted by the ghosts of the people from whom the hair has come. There's still a yuck factor to the whole idea of buying and wearing other people's body parts. She says, the whole supply chain is shrouded in secrecy from beginning to end. And I'm so glad that she brought up this point, because if you think about hair as being part of the body, to take hair from someone and attach it to your body is to wear someone else's body part. And if you're wearing somebody else's body part, that means that the ruach, the spirit of that person, is transferred in their body parts, including their hair. So if you wear the hair of another person, you are, in essence, connecting yourself to that person. And if the hair that you're wearing is coming from a whole host of different people, you are connecting yourself on a physical and spiritual level to people you've never met and probably will never meet, who are engaged in a whole host of activities that you probably yourself would not engage in. We have to ask ourselves, is it worth it? Let's continue. There's a whole industry around untangling, sorting, treating comb waste. While the finished product invariably passes through China on its way to its final destination, it is likely to be a mishmash of hair from many Asian countries. There's no distinction. It gets all mangled up, says Tarlo. All over Asia, long-haired women will save the hair that combs out when they comb or wash, and once they've got a few years' worth, they'll sell it to the peddlers who go around these neighborhoods calling out for hair, says Tarlo. Out of a bag, she pulls some of her own hair. It's a dusty mound of comb waste collected over 3 years and worth about $1, she says. All this hair gets amassed, passed from trader to trader until it ends up in hair untangling workshops in parts of Bangladesh, India, and more recently, Myanmar, countries where wages are low and people need work. Tarlo visited workshops and home in Myanmar and India, where she saw dozens of women sitting on the floor, untangling other people's hairballs, and then sorting them into bunches based on their length. It's painstaking work and very labor-intensive. 3 pounds of hair takes around 80 hours of labor to untangle, she says. And there in this picture you see a tub that's filled with hair that's been dyed blonde. Continuing. In Myanmar, women were given 3.5 ounces of hair in the morning and another 3.5 ounces in the afternoon. Villagers would also come in to buy mounds of comb waste to take home, untangle, and then sell back to the hair brokers. Next comes the processing. The outer layer of the hair, the cuticle, has scales. all of which point in the same direction, like the scales of a fish. But the problem with comb waste is that hair is mangled up. The scales point in different directions, causing it to tangle and knot. In China, the hair is typically put in a chemical bath to remove the cuticle completely, Tarlo explains. This resolves the tangling, but the lack of a cuticle results in somewhat lower quality hair, she says. Nonetheless, by the end of this process, it can look fantastic, like prize ponytails. You wouldn't know what a journey that hair has been on. Continuing. Millions travel to Hindu temples in southern India every year to get their hair shaved or tonsured, as it is known when it is done for religious reasons. It's an age-old tradition. It is done as a religious offering and fulfillment of a vow, and in earlier times was just left to float down the river and go to waste, says Tarlo. She describes the buzz of the tonsure halls where the ritual takes place. At Tirumala, they are filled with as many as 650 barbers, and pilgrims sit cross-legged on the floor in front of them. The barbers work quickly, and the hair is promptly scooped up and sold every few months by the temple authorities via e-auction. And here on the screen, you see an image, a statue on a Hindu temple in India, and it reveals how tonsuring is an ancient tradition. So you see the barber cutting the hair of the worshiper, and that hair is in fulfillment of a vow to a pagan deity. So the hair is the connection point between that person and the deity to whom they're making a vow. It's as if it's an offering, but the hair is collected and sold and ends up on shelves all over the world that people purchase and put in their own heads. Here in this picture, you can see some women after their head has been shaved in a Hindu ceremony in India. They take it all. So this is the end product. So someone is wearing their hair in their braids or in their extensions. Another picture. This is an Indian temple where hair is sorted at a factory in Chennai. It will end up in expensive hair salons in the West. So this is the hair that has been shaved off of the heads of those who are making a vow to their Indian Hindu deities, and this hair is collected, sorted, and sold. Continuing. Hair from India was the staple supply for wig makers in Orthodox Jewish communities across Europe, in the United States, and Israel until 2004, when a delegation of rabbis from Stamford Hill, North London, went to investigate whether or not the hair could be considered kosher. Now, these are Jewish people, okay? They were trying to determine whether the hair was kosher, meaning up to the standards of what the Most High would consider clean, okay? Now, we know they're not the people, but what they have to say about this has ramifications for us. The delegation was sent by an old Lithuanian rabbi in Israel to work out whether the hair was a religious offering or could be considered religiously neutral, explains Tarlo. Even though the ritual took place outside the temple, they concluded it was too muddled up in idol worship. Women were asked to burn their wigs, and it caused a big crisis in the market because it cut that circuit of hair from India into the Jewish market. And Emma Tarlo is a professor of anthropology at a university in London and the author of Entanglement, The Secret Lives of Hair. So we have reached the end of this article and have learned much about the process of where the hair that is purchased in these Chinese stores, where it comes from, and how it is gathered. If the Jewish delegation in 2004 determined that the hair that went into making the wigs for their citizens was too steeped in idol worship? What makes us think, as the true people of the book, that the hair that you purchase isn't still, at the same time and in the same way, steeped in idol worship? It's either hair that has been dedicated, donated, cut off the head to fulfill a vow, or it's hair that's come off of the head of someone from their brushes, from their combs, from their bathtub drains, collected, sorted, cut and put into nice little bundles, packaged for you to add to your own hair. This is not what the Father wants for us, beloveds. This is not it. And I think if you would consult the Father, you would feel it in your Ruach that this is not what He wants for us. He does not want us wearing weaves on our heads or braids made of the hair of other people. Let's read a few verses of Scripture. 1 Kapha, chapter 3, verses 3 through 5. Do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of hair and the putting on of gold jewelry, or the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart, with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is in Yahuah's sight very precious. For this is how the holy women, the Qadash women, who hoped in Yahuah used to adorn themselves by submitting to their own husbands. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. I desire then that in every place the men should pray, lifting holy hands without anger or quarreling. Likewise also that women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel, with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess holiness with good works. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yahuah be praised. The Most High desires for His daughters of Zion to be chaste keepers of their homes, to be lovely with good works. Now, there's nothing wrong with braiding your hair. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But to go to the ends of the earth to collect hair that you can use to braid into your own hair, and to go through all of this rigmarole to try to be beautiful by the world's standards, that's not what Abba's calling us to. He's calling us to walk in holiness, to walk in Qadash. Walking Qadash. This is what the series is called, and this is what the Father has called us to. He wants us to be beautiful in our good works. So, here we are. And I know some of you are in interesting situations. And when I say interesting, I mean you may have a situation where you can't grow your own hair. You may have contact alopecia, or you may have androgenetic alopecia, male pattern baldness, or you may have tension alopecia, or you may have some sort of autoimmune disease where your hair follicles are attacked and they can't grow, or you may be recovering from cancer treatment and you don't have hair, and you want to feel beautiful, and you want to feel that feeling of hair on your head. I understand. I suffer with alopecia myself. My head is always covered, and I don't have a whole lot of options because I choose not to wear wigs. I did in the past, but I stopped because Abba said to stop. He said, don't wear them. And that was before I knew the history of the hair market. It was before that. He said, stop. No hair, no wigs, no weaves, no makeup, no nail polish, no nothing. Just some lip balm. That is all He will allow me to wear. Now, I can't speak for you, but I'm pretty certain that He expects us as the daughters of Zion to be the beautiful daughters that He created us to be, au natural. And if you have a situation with your hair where you can't grow it the way it needs to grow. Trust Abba. Trust Him and trust your needs to Him. He is able to supply. I believe that one day my hair will grow in all the places where it currently doesn't. I believe it will. And I'm sharing this with you in a moment of vulnerability to let you know that I understand. I get it. I understand that there are times when you feel like you just want to feel pretty. You want to feel like the Europeans. You want to flip your hair over your shoulders. But that's not what Abba wants for us. He wants us to adopt and accept what He gave us and not try to tend and fend for ourselves. Whenever we do that, we end up in idolatry when we go outside of the limits and the boundaries that the Father has established for us and try to set our own way, our own tone, do our own thing. We get in trouble that way. And Abba has not given us permission to wear other people's hair in our heads. He's not done that. Braiding your own hair, perfectly fine. Braid away. It's beautiful. Braid your own hair. But to add the extensions that are synthetic, that are damaging to your health, or to wear hair that is human from another person's head that could have been involved in temple idolatry, you just don't know. Because like the article says, the hair gets all muddled together. It's all put together and you don't know which strand came from somebody's drain, which strand came from somebody's hairbrush, which strand came from the temple, the Hindu temple in India. You just don't know. Not to mention the processes that may be happening in some of the other countries where the hairs are collected. We just don't know. And even if we did know, Abba did not create a commandment for us to adopt the ways of the heathen by wearing fake hair in our hair. And so as painful as it is, for those of us who really want to be pleasing to the Most High, we have to let that go. We have to be, like I said, au natural and wear what He has given to us. And if we don't have hair, head wraps and hats are a beautiful thing. And we thank the Father for granting us head wraps and hats until such time as He restores us and brings back our hair. But until then, we will yet praise Him. We will yet thank Him, and we will yet honor Him by being who He made us to be, looking the way He wants us to look, acting the way that He has ordained for us to act in righteousness, having our nails natural, having our lips, maybe a little lip balm, no red polish, no eyelashes that look like camel lashes, no eyeliner, no mascara, no blush, no weaves, none of those fake things, but natural. Natural. Take care of yourself. Put on your moisturizer. Moisturize your face. Scrub your face real good. Not too hard. Take care of your body, but let it be natural, the way the Father intended. Now, with all of this said, it's still incumbent upon you to take this lesson and what you've learned here to Abba and let Him guide you in how you are to proceed ahead regarding nails and nail polish, hair weaves, and makeup. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but still, I'm going to ask you to take these things to Abba and see what He says to you. Okay? It's crunch time, brothers and sisters. We have to be ready for the bridegroom. And our bridegroom is not going to reject the bride just because she doesn't have on a fancy weave or painted nails or camel eyelashes. He wants her to be beautiful because of her good works, the good works of the Father being done in and through her. He wants her to shine like the sun in the kingdom of His Father and her Father. That's what He's looking for. He's not looking for all this outward stuff. It profits nothing. It profits nothing. So let's eschew the world. Let's turn away from the world and turn our eyes squarely upon the Most High and do the things that are pleasing in His sight. Let's take off all the fakeness. And let's be real with our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, and with ourselves. So I thank you for joining me today for the Sista Chat. It's been one whale of a chat. We've talked about some pretty serious topics, but there are things that needed to be addressed, because true holiness before the Father is to walk in purity. And to walk in purity is to shun vanity. We can't be about making ourselves look good for the world, but only for the Father. And that has nothing to do with what we look like on the outside. It has everything to do with what we look like on the inside. Remember, Messiah said, clean the inside of the cup. And that is what the Father is working with us to do, to clean the inside of the cup so he can pour himself into us and fill us up to overflowing so that we might decrease as Yahuah in us increases. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining me once again for another Sista Chat. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention. And I pray that you would take these things before the Father and that he would grant you guidance and wisdom regarding how to proceed ahead. May the Most High Yahuah Baruch and keep you, brothers and sisters. Bless and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and grant you shalom, shalom, peace in every area. And may we be totally dedicated to laying down our lives for the Most High, being willing to turn away from everything that Babylon offers us and tells us, you've got to have it, you've got to have it. People are dying to be beautiful, putting all kinds of toxic chemicals in their hair, on their fingernails, on their skin, ingesting them even, to be beautiful, when the Father has already made you beautiful, just by virtue of the fact that you exist. Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, shalom. Thank you.